It's good for your hair.
If it's gonna rain, we should leave.
Rain out.
Are we on now? Are we on?
Yep, we're good, thank you.
Okay. Welcome tonight to the Village of Holly Parks meeting for June 5th, 2024 at 6 p.m. at Cyclone Park. I call this meeting to order at 6 p.m. Pledge of allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Hutchins.
Here.
McCanny.
Here.
Summers.
Here.
Peltonen.
Here.
Hamilton.
Here.
Cole.
Here.
Kyer.
Here.
Okay, everybody's present. Moving on to the agenda. Does anybody have anything to add to the agenda? If not, would somebody like to make a motion to approve the agenda as submitted tonight?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay, moving on to the approval of the minutes for May 1st, 2024.
Looks good to me.
I will make a motion to approve the minutes for May 1st, 2024.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Moving on to public comment. I hate this. Wish we had an abbreviated one for this, but we don't. Members of the public can address the commission once recognized by the chairperson's comments are limited to a maximum of 4 minutes for items not on the agenda. The commission may extend this time by up to an additional 4 minutes by majority vote. For items on the agenda, comments may be made after commission discussion prior to commission vote. Prior to addressing the commission, members of the public shall state their name, address for the record. Anybody for public speaking? Hearing none, saying none, moving right along. Presentation, Amy Hillman, you have the floor.
Hello, and thank you for having me tonight. I am Amy Hillman. I am the assistant to the supervisor for Holly Township. In that capacity, in I believe 2017, Holly Township became a part of the Oakland County CISMA, which is the Cooperative Invasive Species Management Area. That is where I became the voting member representative for Holly Township. And from that time, I was actually voted in to become the chair of their executive committee. The invasive species management area is all of Oakland County. When I had first begun, it was a nonprofit organization that was funded primarily by grants from the Michigan DNR. Through the quarantine, we did our due diligence to make sure that we were meeting all the requirements of our grants as far as doing our frog bit treatments. There's a lot of invasive species that we don't really think about or know about in our state. Primarily for us, our focus was Phragmites. You'll see them along the roadways. They're very tall. Some of them are as tall as 20 feet, and they are pervasive. So one of the main focuses that we had was the grant that we got from the Road Commission, being that it was kind of spread primarily by roadside mowing. That was one of many species that we attend to, but that was at the time the primary focus. Through the quarantine, I was able to work with Sarah Cook Malin from Oakland County Parks on convincing the Board of Commissioners to bring the SISMA under their umbrella at Oakland County Parks and then allow us access to those millage funds. That was achieved, and it did take some time for Oakland County to come up with all of the documentation, as it so happens with government, to bring all of our people and then our mission into play through Oakland County Parks. With that partnership, we now have access to millage funds. Millage funds that are paid by all of Oakland County. So we went from a small funded nonprofit organization to a very well-funded organization with Oakland County Parks. That has allowed us to do all of the things and plus more that we have dreamt up since. That is how I was able to introduce the SISMA and Oakland County Parks to the Township Parks and Rec Commission. If you have been following anything that's been going on at Sorensen Park, they've just recently had a prescribed burn. Usually a prescribed burn, if you know about the history of burns in the world, really. I mean, it was a very common thing that the Native Americans did to clear land and to revitalize the land. Sorensen Park is home to some very, very great and very pristine oak barren. Actually, Keegan can tell you a lot more about that. He is my representative that I wrangled over from Oakland County Parks, and he'll be able to tell you more about what Oakland County Parks can do for the village of Holly Parks. What I envisioned for today was an introduction so that you could decide if you would like to become more involved with the SISMA and Oakland County Parks and be able to foster that relationship. I thought it was important for you to have that opportunity to decide whether that was something that you would like to take part in. That is a wealth of resource and knowledge. Keegan has educated me personally on so much, and being a part of the SISMA has educated me and actually fostered relationships with other municipalities and other professionals within the government realm, and really taught me a ton. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity, for one, from the Parks Commission, from two, from the Oakland County Board of Commissioners and the Oakland County Parks itself. There is a wealth of resources that is available to each municipality within Oakland County. And I think that a lot of us up here in the northern area don't get to see that or have access to those resources very readily as they do in the southern part, but we actually are home to most of the more natural and conserved areas. So as I was talking about with the prescribed burn, doing the walkthrough with Oakland County Parks following that, I learned that we have a wealth of wild lupine and a wealth of wild strawberries and a whole host of really pristine, preserved areas that are untouched. I believe that Keegan had said there was 0.01% left in the world, and Holly Township is home to that. So we actually are this rare little spot in Holly, and I believe that there's if it's there on East Holly Road, then there's other areas as well. And that's just one small part of what Oakland County Parks has helped us to identify and to move forward in planning for conservation, for maintenance, and for thriving, really. So I thought today, and I believe that Joe agrees, that this is the proper introduction. And if you would like a further, more inclusive presentation about what is available, then I'm sure that we would be able to provide that to you. Unfortunately, Patrick, who is our coordinator for the SISMA, was not able to make it on a short notice. However, he has an entire presentation as to what the SISMA has available to the municipalities, remembering that this millage is paid by all of our residents, so it's we have the opportunity to play upon that, and these newfound relationships can really benefit all of our residents and our parks. And I know that there is a ton that I don't even know about yet. So if I would like to introduce you to Keegan Schildberg. Come on over.
Hello, I work in the woods most times, so this is kind of a different setting for me. Yeah, I'm our natural areas coordinator for Oakland County Parks. I've been there for 10 years. I do all the prescribed burns, restoration work, so reintroducing native plants to areas that were converted to agriculture, that have become parks. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Oakland County Parks. Most of them were farmland up until recently. And treating and getting rid of invasive species. I prefer questions, so shoot questions at me. I otherwise have 2 young kids and I have a scattershot, sleep-deprived brain, so, feel free to interrupt, just ask questions and I'll just ramble and you guys can take whatever you want from it. The SISMA, like Amy said, is sort of the whole state has them, right? And originally it was a mechanism for the DNR to give local units of government money or technical expertise into land management and invasive species. Oakland County is unique because we are the only single county SISMA. We had enough interest and enough units of government willing to work together that the state said, okay, that's all you. And then over the pandemic, we just incorporated the SISMA. The County Board of Commissioners felt it was a more of a streamlined process. And it also goes along with and I'm not the head of the county government, so take this for what it is from some schmuck, right? But the imperative seems to be more, they're viewing us in parks as a resource for the local units, right? So if they want us to act more as you guys don't have, if you are interested in this, you say, well, hey, we care about invasive species. The county wants you to say, hey, do you have any technical expertise? And then we go, yes, that's us. We will be your expertise, instead of you having to go out and be like, where do we start with this? Who do we hire? You don't have to do that. That is my interpretation of what the people up top are telling us. I don't know where any are at on this. Do you need to be sold on invasive species? Do you know what an invasive species is? Who cares? Why is it important? Where are we at?
Well, the biggest thing is, I'm with Holly Township Parks also. You guys it wasn't a 2-man operation out there. They came with an army with their own vehicles to do the prescribed burn. It was very impressive. They were all professionals. They weren't just anybody. We have a lot to protect out here because due to development, we've lost a lot.
Yes.
And I've been fielding questions lately about Lakeside Park, from Lakeside all the way around Old Thomas Street to the boat launch. We have brush. People say, boy, it'd be nice if we cleaned that out. I said, we can't right now. We gotta find out what we got.
Sure.
Yeah.
Waterworks Park, we've been working on that a lot this spring, took out a lot of nasty stuff in there. That's quite a stretch on the Shiawassee River. We need some expertise on that. Ganshaw Park across over to Bevins Lake is full of brush. And that's where we need to find your guys' expertise to say, this goes, that stays, and everything else, because we wouldn't like to spend the money why spend it twice when we got you guys?
That's right.
And we are only a recommending body to the village council.
Sure.
So that's why I asked for a presentation tonight. If we're in agreement, we're gonna send you guys with your presentation to the village council. They'll come back and say, hey, Parks, we'd like to buy into this. What do you guys think?
Sure.
We'll see. So that's the way it goes.
Other than removal of invasive species, can you, because I've always been curious, Ganshaw Park, what if there could be some kind of restoration effort there? Because, but somebody with some expertise, you could evaluate
Yeah,
that for us?
absolutely. And so
Oh,
that's,
that would be awesome.
yeah, and that's the
same
kinda-
with- Yeah.
yeah.
Same, Joe pointed, yeah, with Lakeside too, that would be,
It's all waterfront property.
yeah.
so I'm doing that right now for Oxford. I'm looking at a couple of their parks, and I'm running a brief, like, management plan for them, you know?
That would be
Bullet
fantastic.
points and estimates.
And I think the biggest thing we
Yeah,
found
we
with
need that.
your expertise at Township Park was,
Mm-hmm.
this is not just, hello, goodbye, see you later, the honeymoon's over. This is a project that will be continued to go on.
Yeah.
It's a program.
Yes, yes.
The better health of our nature is what it is.
Yes. I mean, honestly, I'm like a maintenance guy for the woods. I mean, it's like a way I think of it. Like, I weed the woods. The sort of, I'm sorry, we're gonna, brief history lesson, brief aside, and just cut me off, this is boring, but like, the whole, like, conception of, natural resources, right? Like, you think of the National Park Service and you think of the National Forest Service. Those are the two, like, original ideologies on this kind of stuff, right? The Park Service is preserving land for people to enjoy and recreate in, right? And the Forest Service is preserving resources to use in a responsible way over time, right? And so, when those were established, Teddy Roosevelt established those, that was all there was to think about with this stuff. But as we've introduced non-native stuff, there's really a third line of thought that has had to come around, and that is, well, we've added this stuff, and it's getting into the system, and it's ruining the system. So while in the past we could just buy land and do nothing, we now have all this stuff that comes in, weeds, invasives, right? So we need to do something. That's me. I'm doing management to keep the stuff the way it was, right? So I do view a huge chunk of what we do as, whether people recognize it or not, is maintaining quality recreational opportunities for people to recreate in quality natural areas. And that's like a whole, there's like a ton, yeah.
Well, our survey did, I think, Shannon, how many people said viewing nature was part of their?
It was one of the majority of our things, was
Yeah,
that
for
people
sure.
want to walking paths and viewing nature was what they use our park system mostly for.
Definitely.
Children's activities.
And I think we've had similar, like when we've commissioned studies, people are like, I want a nice trail and I want to view nature. And like, whether they know it or not, when you walk through an invasive species thicket, right, where it's just shrubs, because a lot of the shrubs that you're talking about, all the brush, is non-native stuff that has grown in and been able to outcompete everything else. And people I don't think they necessarily know what they're looking at, but they look at it and like, this isn't great. Like, it's a wall of just stuff. But like a healthy system where you have different flowers, different trees, it's spread out, it's open, there's birds and pollinators and just interesting stuff to look at, it's a healthy system, and they might not, yeah, like, but they intuit it. So we're kind of maintaining that. So I think we improve through and I'm not saying this, we, land managers, improve quality ecosystems and also get these added benefits of people saying, what a nice, park, what a great place to recreate. That's, again, how I view my work. And I know I'm kind of coming at this, I also have the, I just love nature aspect that I do, that's why I went into this field, but from the, park aspect, it's, I think, maintaining a quality aesthetic for people.
That's the biggest thing too, is we have places we cannot mow due to OSHA law, 10, 15 degrees. Our lower ball field has a big hill. We've turned that into a natural prairie, and it doesn't look like much. It'll take a couple of years, but we're not gonna mow that no more.
Right.
And along Old Thomas Street, along by the cemetery, there's high banks there. That could be turned into natural prairie. So there's places that, we mow everything so it looks like Comerica Park. Nature and recreation can go side by side. We don't have to sacrifice either one of the two to still get recreation
Agreed.
and nature, because it gives them something to look at. That's what you guys did out
And I
there.
think we're all in agreement with this, but this presentation, like Ms. Hillman said, is more about like us interfacing with them, that this is something that we can use.
Yeah.
This is a tool and a resource that we can use, like you said, I mean,
Desperately, I think we desperately need, the assistance, because we don't have the financial resources to accomplish what we need to do, and this can be a huge asset.
We have 7 parks.
Well,
We have
money to hire
one, you've got 2 that would just, they're really not even used. You could, like the Pocket Park on North Road and then the Morris Line Arboretum.
A lot of that could be turned over instead of DPW and
Have
have
to
them
mow
mow
it, just put some wildflowers in
Yep.
there,
We got spots, picturesque parts in neighborhoods. and
save money.
We're trying to make walking paths through town and stuff, so it can be highlighted on the way. So this ain't gonna happen overnight or next month or next year, but we gotta start somewhere.
So what is the role that would somebody from the board then have to be like a voting member, like you became? Or what is the role that somebody here would play if we join?
I think honestly, not a ton, like you'd attend a month, and I wish Patrick was here, I'm sorry. And I've been out of the SISMA game a little bit, but I'm pretty sure you just,
Right, I was gonna say, so being that it's now part of a millage-funded department, you have the opportunity to take part if you want. And it would be up to you as much as you want to take part or as little as you want to take part. So once quarantine and the pandemic had started, we had introduced those virtual meetings. And being that we draw from all of Oakland County, it became more challenging for people to get to the, Pontiac area to attend the meetings. And then some of them are a little bit more cumbersome at the time because we were dealing with a lot of grant funding and it was a lot of technical talk about that. Now that we've come under Oakland County Parks, it's more about the education opportunities. So it's a once a month for about an hour, and it usually highlights what the focus is or what the education is, the opportunity that day. So one of my favorites is usually the Clean Boats program. So the state of Michigan has a wealth as well through the DNR. But then, when you were talking about the boat launch, they have the Clean Boats program that will come out and tell people how to leave a clean, dry boat so that you're not taking zebra mussels and things to your next destination. When you're considering Shiawassee River, when you're taking your kayak in and out and say you take it to another location that has invasive species and you don't do the proper maintenance, and then you take it to the Shiawassee, and if you've been in the Shiawassee, you can see that there are zebra mussels near the headwaters. You can see that there are zebra mussels in Bush Lake. So my sister-in-law goes to Bush Lake, and then she goes to Shiawassee, and then she goes to Bush Lake, and then she goes to Shiawassee. Well, when you're, dumping water, or if you're just putting your boat in, you wouldn't think about that. Or when you're on your walking trails, you're not thinking about all of the seeds that you're picking up on your shoes. So we actually invested in the boot brushes and distributed those to the county at certain trails and at 7 lakes and such like that, so that when you're done with your trail, you can dust your boots off so that you're not taking that home. And so that you're not taking it to another park. So, your hiking boots and such. You're not taking these things everywhere, which is why the Road Commission got involved with the Phragmites treatment. And you can see now the flowers that are in bloom right now are the Dame's rocket. They look much like phlox. And that has become very widespread through Holly. I can give you an example from my neighborhood. They went and cleared out just a small space, but they didn't do any riparian planting, which is what you're talking about as far as the shores and such. And so now we've got a whole side of garlic mustard and we've got a whole side of Dame's rocket. And that takes years to put together a plan and years of attention to those species in order to eradicate them. And even then, you're going to have some kind of maintenance plan going forward to be able to identify when those are invading and to be able to maintain the riparian, maintenance plan for that. And that comes into knowledge too. So I think that what I gained and what Holly Township as a whole gained mostly by coming into the SISMA and then bringing the SISMA into Oakland County Parks was the wealth of knowledge. There are the resources, there are the funding resources that I think both of our parks commissions desperately need. as well as that wealth of information, because I think what's going to happen is once you start learning about certain things and then you start seeing certain things, you're going to come up with your own plans. You're going to come up with even more needs, and that's where Oakland County Parks has been so vital in saying, well, we've got this, so why don't we do this? And that's what I have found to be one of the great things too about working with Oakland County Parks, especially with the natural resources, is that you have a whole host of like-minded people that want to see the revitalization of our natural resources, that want to help perpetuate those maintenance plans and the riparian planting, that will give you access to not only the resources, but the equipment, the professionals, the planning, and some of the plants that you're going to need to put that into place. And then you'll be able to identify. They have a gentleman that does butterfly surveys. So even just right down to things that you wouldn't think about, insects, birds, when we're talking about invasives, and they kind of overlap. So we'll talk about almost any invasive. Really, it creates a monoculture. So like he was saying with brush, it just becomes one thing. When you are traveling down the side of the road and you see the Phragmites, we actually also have native Phragmites. They're small, they're dainty. The big Australian Phragmites are big and hardy, and they take over, and they're pushing out our natural cattails. It takes years and years of a maintenance plan and attention to that to push that back. So if you're going down, one of my favorite spots and a point of pride for me is Laring and Fagan Road, right before you're heading north to the cemetery. You can see there's the three corners there, and you can see where we have done active treatment to those roadside Phragmites. We can't go past the public right-of-way. However, you can see the vast difference between the private land that has the large overhanging Phragmites and then where it's all kind of grown back, because we were able to pay attention to that and take part in the SISMA and make sure that they came out with their professionals, did the proper mapping, put that over to the treatment companies that were coming out, and you've probably seen them or may have not, but they're right on the side of the road spraying the Phragmites down. And then every year they would come out and do another mapping section, and you find another little pocket up here and another little pocket there. But I've noticed within the last few years those little pockets are no longer. So I think there's a ton of opportunity and things that we don't even know about by bringing our organizations together. And I think just even the conversation that we've had today is just a small snippet of what you're going to be able to do. I think that when you sit down, or probably once Keegan actually goes out and takes a look and shows you what is actually happening and what the possibilities are and what Oakland County has to offer, you're going to be very pleasantly surprised.
I think to Shannon's point though, like, who would we have a person that would serve on this board like you did, or?
So right now,
How would that
because
work to interface?
because it's a millage funded program now, we found it imperative to have the municipalities have a representative as a representative of their taxpayers. So to make sure that the mission was being put forth as for what was going to be most beneficial for the municipalities that were taking part within the SISMA primarily. But you don't have to be a part of the SISMA per se to be able to take opportunity with the resources from Oakland County Parks. So the Oakland County SISMA would ask you to name a representative or a voting member, and then they would attend the meetings if they so chose, or not. And then you would be the one that probably would be the primary go-between for the parks to the SISMA. However, everybody really has the opportunity to go back and forth and have that discourse with them. So it's not limited to your voting member. We do encourage you that you have a voting member, and we do encourage you to take part in the Zoom meetings or the virtual meetings. The last in-person meeting we actually had at the Nature Center at Sorensen Park. And then, just during that meeting, there was one of the Headwaters organizations that had trees. So he had a bunch of saplings that's still left over from another event that he had brought that, and everybody was able to take saplings if they had a spot for those to be planted. So it's just even small little things like that that gives you the opportunity, and not only to take part and represent your community, but to find out what other people are doing, to find out what's working for them, to see what grant opportunities they're taking part in, to see what maintenance plans they're using. It really becomes another resource of knowledge and power, I would say, because we all know that 2 heads is better than 1 and 4 and such. So I have found that through my involvement in the SYSMA, it's really, we've brought a lot of resource to the township as a whole, and then now introducing the parks, I think, is going to be that next step, and really taking part in what our taxpayers are paying for. So Keegan is here because we have paid for the opportunity to have him. So I think it's really, really vital that we take part in those things. And I believe that it's been probably, many years since the parks and the Parks Authorities, which were one of the few that are left, have really come together to try to help each other. We often see that the county is the larger over, and then we don't really realize how much resource they have available to us until we go looking for it. So it just so happened that we went looking for it, and I have found a wealth. And now the SYSMA coming under the parks umbrella has just made that even more for us. So it's a great opportunity, and I look forward to seeing what it can do for Holly as a whole.
Any other questions?
None.
I think we're all on board. How do you want us to word them?
Well, I guess that would be up to you. I'm not sure as to how you're, usually operate. So like I said. Right, and so that's what I thought. So if you want to make the recommendation, if they would like to add us to an upcoming meeting, and then we can make a formal presentation and add some formal documents and things about what we actually, or what the SYSMA and Oakland County Parks has to offer. And then, so I'm going to put that back to you as to you tell me how this works for you.
Okay, I'd like to discuss this. Usually, I don't think we have to make a motion. We're just all under the same thought plan that we're going to send this to the village council and for their presentation.
And that we endorse the idea of.
That we endorse
Yes.
the whole SYSMA joining, and we pass that on to village council for their next meeting. They can get on the agenda, she can get on the agenda, and then we can get this thing going.
Okay.
So I think we're all about nature.
Thank you, Amy.
Absolutely. And just to be clear, there's no buy-in. Our taxpayers have already bought us in. This is just making sure that we're going to make a formal relationship, and we're going to invite Keegan to come and give us all of his knowledge.
This has been paid ahead.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Yeah, so, okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
We're hiding in Holly.
Oh, he's excited. He's already looking at small little spots by the railroad.
What's your last name again?
Schildberg,
Okay.
Schildberg. That's Childberg, or Skeeter.
Okay.
And then you can find me at the township, and you can feel free if something, sparks and you have a question, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to, introduce you or try to find any information that you're looking for.
And I'd like to thank you for the great job you've all done out at Sorensen Park.
Thank you. I'm just a facilitator of relationships.
But it's a great marriage.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, let's move on to, I think we settled that. We're gonna move that to village council. they can get a hold of her. Let's move on to old business. Urban Community Forestry Program Grant application.
That would be me. I just got the application yesterday, so needless to say, it is not filled out yet. The one I got is the non-matching funds one. And it can be a grant for anywhere between $10,000 and $50,000. So it's not $2,000, it's a pretty big grant. One of the things that this grant seems to believe is most important is to serve areas that are low income or have certain qualifications that they need to meet, and a entity that will serve a greater area of population that community involves. Now, what we're looking at is some trees at Lakeside Park. The entire town uses that park. So I'm using our census of probably over 6,000 people at this point to fill that out, to put, and how did you determine the estimated number of people to be impacted by the project? Well, that's the biggest park we have, the one that's used the most. And I think our census would prove factual and actual in this application. It needs to be in by August 15th. There's a couple of things, activities in these categories that must serve or directly benefit disadvantaged areas of the community. Our four choices are tree planting and establishment, training and workforce development, tree maintenance and care, and outreach and education. I think that tree planting and establishing the trees is important. I would like to put in some allowance for tree maintenance and care.
Yeah, because we have to do that every year anyway.
And then maybe
that
we'll
really
have a little
helpful?
bit of money to kick back to the DPW, who takes care of that anyway.
Right.
Yep.
Because we have to pay, we have that contracted out, so if we can save the money on doing that, we can allocate it for other things perhaps.
They want to know the scope of the project. Is it just at Lakeside Park? Do we have other areas where we might like to put some trees? Someone contacted me about putting some trees in this park, Cyclone Park. I don't know if that's something you'd like to consider?
Yeah, do you know how many trees have been removed from the parks like in the last 5 years?
From parks?
Parks. Like a rough idea? Probably a couple dozen, right?
Not from parks, no.
The cemetery.
Yeah, the cemetery, we've lost, I know.
Yeah, the cemetery, I'm gonna say probably a dozen over the last 10 years.
And we've bought, and then also, I know we've lost a lot in Waterworks Park along the river, and then we just took down some in the middle of the park.
Yeah, they were dead.
Yeah.
Right, but I mean, there's still
Yeah,
losses.
Yeah, there, I think we took 2 pines down this year, big pines that were, they got that money and killed them. But I'm trying to think of the parks.
Now, Brian, up on the new development of the cemetery, nobody's planted any trees out there at all.
No, then the open field, we've left that open till we've got it, because it's not plotted yet, so,
So,
well, we'd have to have it plotted first, because if you plant trees and then you go to mark it out for graves and we plant a tree,
Yeah.
until we get it marked out, then you really don't want to put any trees there until,
Why can't you put in trees and plot around them?
you're doing it backwards that way.
yeah, it's kind of like, you gotta subdivide before you build houses. you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
You gotta map it out.
Yeah.
But that's the thought, because I always wondered,
Well, if you have to put a grave in by a tree that's been planted, you're gonna disrupt the root structure.
So don't put in a grave there.
Or you could put graves there and then put in the trees.
Or we could
Graves
put
are
in
gonna be
2
disrupted.
trees.
or you could also put in boulevards with trees in it instead of putting them into the grave sites.
Can we include the cemetery and Lakeside Park as one unit for the purpose of this grant?
because this is a community-wide grant, it's not just specific to one area. It's not just specific to that park. It's something we.
But it's
can-
low to moderate,
Right.
it's low to moderate income, right? So our
Right.
CBDG area includes Lakeside Park. It doesn't include some of these other parks. So I'd have to get the exact, which parks and stuff are included.
Okay.
So that way, that would fall under that low to moderate income.
Lisa, could you work closer with Brian on this?
Absolutely.
Yep. He'll give you guys can work this out and figure out what's up.
Yeah,
Well,
if
and
we
we-
use the CBG map, I think it would qualify us for it because it would be the low to
Okay.
moderate income. So I
And-
can get that from Debbie and then that would
Yeah.
that would free that money or that
In
would
your
show
spare
that,
time, you can talk to me.
yes.
So, yeah, but if we can get the trees that are replaced that came out of the cemetery in the last 10 years, we can get trees added to Lakeside Park, especially around the play structure, those would be really valuable. I mean, the cemetery, one of the most beautiful things about the original part of the cemetery is the trees.
Yep.
So we want to preserve that going forward.
So in the new plots of the cemetery that's already laid out there, can you fit trees in between?
Yes, you can fit them along the roadways
So
and
you
stuff
could
that is,
put some-
There's a lot of trees that can go in there too.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big.
So,
Okay, any other questions?
Well, and we're gonna lose trees at Ganshaw, so we can look at replanting there.
And I
too.
think
Replace
Those
it
are
too.
Ganshaw,
being replaced
Placed by the-
already by the.
yeah, by
Okay. TDA.
DDA, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's covered.
Okay.
Okay.
I want to get together with Brian about it, but I was wondering if, because this isn't due until the middle of August, if we could have a maybe longer discussion about this at the next meeting, in case anybody comes up with any other ideas or things that you want to do, I can include it in the application, because we have plenty of time to fill it
That's
out.
why you getting with Brian now.
Right,
You got
right.
time to work that out too.
Right, and then we can talk about it at the next meeting, so it.
Because
needs
it
to
might
be on
also
the
cover
agenda.
some street trees in the village, you know, that's been like Maple Street and stuff. A lot of trees have been taken out over the years.
Good point.
Yeah.
And it is all, all they're really looking is that it will benefit a disadvantaged area. They
Yes.
don't care where you're putting them
Yep.
necessarily,
So
they
that's-
just care that the purpose.
In light of the presentation that we just had.
I know, right?
No, it might be advantageous to wait for Keegan's input too.
We have to
because-
get the grant submitted by
Right,
August.
right, you gotta get the grant submitted, but as far as maybe the specifics of, how specific does it have to be? Like,
They're they want pretty,
pretty,
pretty specific, pretty,
Well, Gail brought up a very good point. If we could get a bunch of trees added to the sections that have already been plotted and where there's already graves and there's no trees yet of the new part of the cemetery, plus replace the trees that we've lost in the cemetery, plus the trees, adding the trees to Lakeside, that's a pretty big project that would be amazing to accomplish.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of trees.
even in here it says, list up to 5 measurable project outcomes. For example, plant 200 trees, inventory 40,000 street trees, train 20 volunteers, foresters. I mean, they really want to know what you want to do.
Now, years ago, when we belonged to Retree America, DPW went through and mapped all the right-of-way trees in the village, not private property, just in public property. But a lot of those, like I say, have been taken out.
Right.
Can we look at, or
Yeah.
make copies of that for,
Do you want to,
for our
Maybe pass it
future
on an
discussion?
email?
for the next meeting, or do you want me to ask Chris
To make copies?
to email you copies so you can look at it before the
Yeah.
next
Send
meeting?
emails.
Information is most
Exactly.
important. And we don't have to wait for SISMA because we're not planning
Because if
where
it's
we're
got
gonna be taking
all
out
those,
invasives.
There's a lot of
Questions.
stuff in here.
yeah,
Yeah, we need to have it finalized by our
Then
next
we
meeting,
can
because
look it
that's
over.
July.
Okay.
You need to have it out by August.
Yeah.
Right, but I want everybody to know,
Yeah,
everybody to
Yep.
Email it
have
to
time
us.
to think about it, and,
yeah.
Yep.
Then we,
okay, good plan, thanks.
Okay. Any other questions? Let's move on to,
Wait, I'm not done.
oh,
This is the non-matching grant. The paperwork for the matching grant is not out yet. It should be here by the middle of June. Now I'm done.
okay,
So there's another grant we can use.
yep,
Good.
you never know. All you do is apply.
With this one?
Yep,
You all set?
we'll have trees everywhere. I'm done.
Okay,
Thank you.
let's move on to the budget.
Well, the end of this month is the council meeting, so the June 25th. So barring any changes, there's $27,000 in the budget. So once it's approved, then when we talk about the July meeting, then we can finalize those projects and get moved forward on those.
Okay.
Okay,
I know we talked last time about what was left in our budget from this year to try to use that up. Do we have a number of what we have left in this year's budget?
Yes, Debbie sent me a thing, and I did not get a chance to look at it, but it is on my phone here, so let me see if I can pull it up real quick.
And while he's looking that
'Cause if we
up,
don't use
they
it, we
did,
lose
we
it.
have installed, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but at Lakeside, the new mom and tot swing has been installed at
Yes.
Lakeside, so,
In the pavilion at Waterworks, that extra pavilion looks great.
yes, yep.
Sure
I've seen
does.
multiple people using it.
speaking of Lakeside, did you notice the depth of the snow underneath that cottonwood down there?
It's everywhere.
You ought to see it down there, because it all came down in the rain. Oh, is it nasty. Timber.
That is a native species.
You live in the wrong part of the country.
They're not native to Michigan.
Yeah, that H looks really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well done.
nice job on the H.
To everybody involved.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll talk about that in
That
council
whole
comments.
She's got on here that of the 20,000, the activity is $11,000, but I have to double check to make sure all the bills have cleared. And then we still have the cement to do for the new drinking fountain at Lakeside and the boards for the bridge at Waterworks.
So
Which
we're
I
saying
don't think that would
we've
be
got 11K
$9,000.
left?
What's that?
We're saying we have 11K left, or that we've
No,
spent?
that's what we've spent out of the 20, so there's
Okay, so
roughly about $8,000 left.
Okay.
But I want
but out
to
of that
verify
eight-
that because it seems like there's some things missing, because I know the drinking fountain and the swing were almost 8,000, so
Okay.
that seems like there's something missing from that. So
But
let
the
me,
cement for the drinking fountain and the planks for the wood would also come out of that 8, is what you're saying?
yes,
Okay.
but I want to make sure that this reflects the baby swing, or the adult child swing, and the drinking fountain, everything is, because that seems low. And I keep my own spreadsheet, so I just want to make sure that something didn't get miscoded and put in the wrong line, so
But what's our deadline to use it before we lose it?
June 30th,
That's what I'm saying, if we want,
Before our next meeting?
yes.
so we'd have to decide, let's say, I don't know, we've got 3K maybe.
Well, you know, with Halloween, we're gonna need, last year I asked for $1,800 for Halloween. I can get that money spent early and then put the orders in now and get that money allocated to use it for this year's instead of next year's.
What about holidays?
Holidays, we don't usually have costs incurred because it's all sponsored out. The
Well,
Halloween
just so
years.
when you do stuff like that, the receipt dates have to match the fiscal year.
But I can make the purchase and put the orders in now.
But putting the orders in and receiving the product that's not
Yeah.
the same thing.
Can't do that?
No, you gotta have the
We'd
receipt.
have to receive it.
You have to receive it
Okay.
before the fiscal year.
We don't want it now.
Yeah.
Darn.
Yeah, the auditors get real picky about that.
Yeah,
You don't want to hold all that candy?
So we also can't use it towards fireworks,
Right.
but even really, because we have to be making that payment.
Yeah,
early.
it has to be, the payment has to, I mean, you have a little bit of, as long as the goods are received before the fiscal year ends,
Yeah.
they can invoice you like the first couple of weeks after and I can pay it, but you can't say, we're gonna buy something and use it in October and order it in June,
I see,
because it overlaps fiscal years and the auditors frown on that.
do they?
What about fireworks? That's the 4th of July. I mean,
But it's after July 1st.
Yeah, it's
no,
after
I don't
July.
care.
I know you don't, but the auditors do, and Debbie will have my.
Oh, darn it.
Is there any more questions about the budget?
But if you think of something, you can call me or email me, and then we can work on that.
I'm just trying to think of anything that we can,
Yeah.
like, even get.
But let
in
me
the next
verify
week,
that
you know?
number, because it does seem low, so,
Yeah.
I can get back
Well,
with Joe
in
and,
doing that, can we make improvements to the parking lot at the boat launch? Like, does that
like
need?
a load of gravel and stuff,
Like,
yeah,
yeah.
that would be.
Doing
like-
that kind of stuff, I mean, we can
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
decide about improving that stuff before
That was high
the
on our
30th,
list.
yeah. The
Yeah,
boat
I mean,
launch
I can get a
needs
load
it.
of gravel in there next week, so
Yeah.
I think the load of gravel's around $1,000, the same, like the limestone that we used at,
Does it just need one load, or is it,
Well, I
it's
could-
pretty low, isn't it?
yeah, I would talk to Bruce, and, because he dumps it and spreads it, so it'd all be one cost, so.
Yeah.
I think he charged us right around see, and that's another thing that came out of this budget, that's why I think that that number may be off a little bit, so.
Yeah. That was our last
think
fall
you can-
budget.
Yeah,
Do you think you can send out an email to us, give it an update on the actual
Yeah,
number, and
yep.
if we can use it for the gravel, or, yeah?
yep.
Because it doesn't sound like we'll be able to convene beforehand again.
Okay, let's move on, if we're done with that. Let's move on to general business consideration of proposed Cyclone Park signage. Do you have that in your packet from Jerry Walker?
Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah, so we lost our sign in all of the renos of this location. And I pointed that out to Mr. Walker, and I was talking about possibilities of maybe just taking off the decal and putting Cyclone Park at the bottom, but then they came up with the idea of just
Yep.
redoing the top part. But in addition to that, our sign that was out there, is it still usable? Is it destroyed?
It's at the DPW, it's, can be put back up, but I know we've talked for the last several years of replacing signs.
Yeah.
We've replaced the one at Ganshaw, and they quite didn't work out the way we wanted it to.
Yep.
And then I know there was talk of doing something similar to the entry signs, but those entry signs, about 3 years ago, were $25,000 a piece.
Right.
So even if you downsize them, that's quite a bit of an expense, so,
But I would propose that we at least get the cyclone sign that we have, and that we currently have, even though it's not an updated new sign that we want to do. Get it remounted, but bring it back, just south of the parking lot here where this is the park. When people come in, if we have this on our sign of the road, people can find us, but then it also distinguishes, well, in here, now you've arrived at the park. Not mounting it at the road anymore, the big sign, but still having it in the park, at the entrance of the park.
I don't know, it's kind of redundant, I think. I mean, it's out at the road.
well, you're gonna clutter it up there. I mean, if anything,
Yeah.
I'd recommend somewhere out here.
That's what I mean, yeah,
Oh,
not
no.
over by the road at all.
No, are you talking about over here somewhere?
Yeah, like
Like, yeah,
down,
yeah,
down
okay.
here, like where the park starts.
Yeah,
not
like at
just
the edge
past
of the parking lot here, yeah.
Oh, I
Okay.
thought you meant by the road.
That's what I thought you were
No.
talking about by the road.
No,
I'm
no,
like,
no.
yeah, that would clutter
Well,
I
that.
think this is great for by the road, I really like the way that looks.
Well, how much does this cost
Right.
us? Like, are we paying for this change to the sign?
Yeah.
That's my decision making.
That's not included in our information.
It is not in this information.
I don't think it's part of it. Let me see.
That I would have to check on. I'm not sure on that, so.
Now, also, Monday at noon is our committee for the tribute.
There's no actions required.
And that's where we're mapping out what's gonna be put in Cyclone Park. So I would store this other sign over at the DPW.
Yeah, it's
to figure
there,
out-
so whenever,
To figure out later on down the road what we're gonna do with the sign. Because we haven't figured out where things are gonna go out here yet. And if we agree with this sign tonight, if no action's taken, we agree with it.
The current.
Well, it is
Right, so that
Current
means,
sign.
so it can't be coming out of our budget if there's no action required.
No, our current sign says Village of Holly Office Municipal for whatever, it doesn't say anything about Cyclone Park.
Oh.
So the top part will just be redone to include the word Cyclone Park. I don't know what the cost is, and I don't know who has to come up with the money for that, but it seems like,
I think this idea, and Joe from Calypso did, or, no, MJR Signs did that out front. Joe did the stuff on the building. So this concept may have come from MJR to Jerry Walker, so I'd have to check. But I would imagine since they've done a majority of the work, this cost is gonna be minimal.
okay,
But I would say that it would probably come out of the parks budget because it says Cyclone Park on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're using the office, instead of the street number, we're using Cyclone Park as the heading for this area.
Right.
Well, if it's coming out of our budget, we have to vote on it then. This says no action required.
Did the
It says no action required if we're happy with what's currently there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I read it
Yeah,
wrong.
you have to read that.
I read it the wrong way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
No, maybe I'm
No.
wrong first.
so let's discuss.
What it says is if the Parks Commission is satisfied with the proposed signage, no action is required. If the
Exactly.
commission desires any changes, the administration is open to suggestions.
Okay.
If they are going to incur the cost to add Cyclone Park to that,
then clearly they are, because
Then
there's
I'm
no
good
action
with it.
required.
Right, yeah, that's the way I took it.
Yeah, so, yeah, I think that if everybody likes the way this photo is, then we're good. It's,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
gonna
no
be
action
changed.
taken.
I'm good with
And we're not, and it's not coming out of Parks.
Does anybody want action taken?
No, I'm good.
Well, then we'll move on. So
Okay.
much for that.
I would like to see our other sign get put back into the park,
Yeah, somewhere.
but way back farther, not at the road.
Well, we also have frontage on Baird Street too, you know, that would
Yeah.
designate, that's the other side of the cyclone.
True,
could
that
put
would
it
be a
over
really
there.
good spot too.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think that's a good idea.
okay. Closing public comment. Does anybody have public comment for the closing? Hearing none, saying none. We're going to move on to reports. Brian?
Well, the next meeting date is July 3rd, so, which is the day before the 4th, which is a long day for some of the staff members, and if anybody wants to volunteer. So there's two suggestions that I would recommend. We can either move it to the 10th, or just not have a meeting next month, but with what came to light with the tree situation, then I would recommend that we move it to the 10th at 6 o'clock.
I
Can
would-
we have a subcommittee meeting about the tree situation instead?
Well, you'd have to create a subcommittee.
Yeah. So much
We're all
for
on the
committees.
subcommittee anyway.
Yeah,
We all want
I
input.
think we'll just settle for July 10th.
Okay?
Is that,
Yeah, that's fine.
Is that the consensus, is July 10th then, just move it back a week?
Be better than the 3rd.
As long as I can get this in by August 15th, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, there would be a meeting in August before the 15th.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
that would,
that's true.
that would be,
Yeah.
that would be a tight time frame. So the other option, I mean, you could cancel it, but if you move it back a week, that gets everybody that's got plans around the 4th to take care of that, and then have the meeting on the 10th to discuss, and then we could have, the only agenda item would be the trees.
yeah, I would suggest that.
I
And-
don't have the ability to be here that day, but you can meet without me.
Yeah, okay, July 10th, the next Parks meeting,
July.
July 10th.
Yep.
Okay.
It's just gonna be a week later.
Yep. Wednesday, July 10th.
Is this room?
Yes, I
available?
already checked on that before,
you.
yes.
If not, we can meet outside.
Not if it was like when we first got here.
Everybody bring a piece of steel. Okay,
And it was already mentioned, but yes, the adult child swing is up.
Looks
The-
nice.
The pavilion at Waterworks is up. The prep work is done. I just have to get the cement contractor, and I've already let him know that we have a project to do before the end of the month. So hopefully we have that up and running before the 4th of July, so it'll be able to be used. We did lose another employee at the DPW, so now I have,
What are you doing to them?
well, he was offered a job that pays way more than what the village could ever offer, so He left, and so I have an 8-year employee, and then I'll have 5 employees with less than a year. So until we get through that learning curve, there's going to be a lot of learning going on, a lot of teaching, so.
No wonder you don't want a meeting on July 3rd.
Right.
So there'll be a lot of firsts for a lot of guys this year, so.
Anything else, Brian?
Nope.
Any questions for Brian?
Yeah, I have, the bathroom at Lakeside, one of the lights was out. Did that get repaired, or is that on your radar?
It's a motion sensor, so you have to step totally into it for it to come on. Everything checked out in the spring when they opened them up and went through them, so I'll have them double check again, but
The
it's
one toward on the Lakeside was the one.
yeah, it's a motion sensor that you have to step in, and if you don't hit it just right, sometimes it doesn't click on, so,
Well, I walked into the sink.
okay, so,
and out.
yeah,
My
so, but I'll have them check it out, but, yeah, they hit. Yeah, but we've been trying to get that cleaned up so that
Yeah.
there's not a lot of,
look
but the
a lot
kids are definitely still up to their vandalism, so.
Is it getting locked at night each night?
Yes, there's 3 sets of bathrooms now that get opened by us in the morning and then locked at night here, Lakeside, and downtown, so.
Fun.
And we still have a little crew that runs around
Yes.
later at night down to Lakeside.
Lakeside, Crapo are their favorite hangouts, the downtown
Yep.
bathroom.
Yep.
Are these bathrooms functional now for the next event we're gonna have?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Let's move on to board member comments. Amber?
Yes, as we mentioned earlier, we planted the Holly H. We just had fantastic volunteers this year. We literally were able to just split them off. We didn't even intend to do the gazebo and the little bench area and the sign, but we got that all done by 1 o'clock
What?
on Sunday. Yeah, it was, like I said, they were like the most efficient little worker bees ever. So yeah, if we can hopefully keep them next year. I fed them
got
and
contact
bought them
information?
beer and just tried to keep them for next year. But yeah, they just did a fabulous job. And then Carol Howard came back out because the edging basically around the gardens had kind of broken up. They're on these stakes and it's plastic, so sometimes that breaks. So she was able to put all new edging along the sign there at Ganshaw as well.
Very nice.
Holly Donuts donated 3 boxes of donuts for us. Ace Hardware, once we started weeding, we were like, well, we need lawn bags. We went to Ace Hardware. They gave us free lawn bags, 8 bags of mulch to put around the gazebo. So just fantastic companies in this town.
Nice.
And that's about all. Oh, and then this weekend at the Holly Legion will be Holly Pride, and I will be there representing us as a Parks Board. We'll have pollinator seeds to hand out to people that I bought, and little parks pens. So if you guys don't have anything going on Sunday at the American Legion, the Pride Festival's there, so.
Are you funding those out of your
Yeah.
own? Okay. Well, those kinds of things I think need to be included in budget talks too, though. But we should allocate money to be doing those kinds of things on a regular basis.
Right, yeah, it's pretty small, but yeah, potentially next year, maybe, yeah, we'll think about adding that into the budget for sure.
But thank you for
I think
doing
Pride would
that.
be happy to hear that, yeah.
Hey, Joe, there's one thing I did forget when we were talking about budget. I was contacted by a contractor that was doing work for Councilmember April Brandon, and he wants to give me a proposal to repaint the gazebo at Ganshaw. So that may be something that we could use the funds for out of this year, if I can get them scheduled, and the cost is low enough that it can just be done administratively, not have to be approved by council, so.
There you go.
That would be great.
Thank you, Brian.
Yep.
Yeah, and we've talked about that a bunch, haven't we?
Shannon?
I don't really have much. I think everything looks great. The Ganshaw Park looks wonderful. I'm excited to see how that park is coming along, especially with the trees coming down and new ones going in. I think it's a great spot. The SISMA stuff is amazing. I'm super into it. And like I said, the Gazebo looks great at Waterworks. I was by there last weekend, and it was packed. The parking lot was packed.
Yeah.
People were all over, dog walkers, kayakers. It's awesome to see people using our parks.
Holly's becoming a park destination, parks and rec. We're it out here. You don't have to go any farther than Holly. It's happening.
Was there an update from the memorial?
Our
Committee?
meeting is Monday,
Okay.
so we
nothing yet.
haven't had it yet.
Thanks, Amber, but nothing for me.
Okay. Sarah?
Yeah, we have a vintage baseball game coming up. It's the day before Father's Day. That's the next one. It'll be a tournament here at this park. I was noticing a lot of use happening over at Waterworks. But I also noticed that we have who we're hiring to do the lawn mowing is only going about 8 feet to the tree line again. They're not going up, they're not keeping all of that cleared that we spent all that time clearing. Do we need to just work into our contract that they do that, or is it just a matter, or has it already been asked of them to do that?
No, it's a new
not?
contractor, so I'll remind them.
Okay, because
So.
it's over the knee high at this point.
Okay.
That's it for me.
Gail?
I think Ganshaw Park looks good. Good organization there. And that's about it right now.
Teresa?
I'm still working on grants for the handicap play structure. So far, the only people that seem to be willing to work with me, but I have not gotten an application yet, is Easter Seals, which is a pretty good one. So it's in the works, I'm trying.
Good. Thank you, Teresa.
Yep.
Yeah, Gail?
How do we find out, Sarah, when those vintage baseball games are?
He gave us a schedule. I can tell you, because I put it on my phone, I believe. The next one is the Saturday before Father's Day, so it's, I'm in July.
But can you find it on the?
On Facebook or something?
Yeah, you can find it on Facebook, and it's on our Parks page too. There's a page for vintage baseball in Holly.
Okay.
I'll share it on the Parks page again, and I'll send you a link. Okay.
Okay. I have nothing to report, except it's going to be a great summer here in Holly again. So tell your friends, tell your relatives, come on down to Holly.
That's right.
Farmers market, everything is going great.
Oh, yeah, the farmer's market.
Okay, I adjourn the meeting at 7:06.
Chris?
Yeah, you have to.
Thanks, everybody, for listening to me.
No, this is the stable leg. It was out when I got here. And I think this one's
Oh, yeah,
loose.
it's only a leg to the
Just
table.
thought I'd let you know, this isn't you, is it, Brian? This is-
Waving late to people?
Okay,
That's not a souvenir.
okay.